the new scramble for Africa. David Pilling in the Financial Times. A Turkish company is generating part of Ghana's power supply. Another one just this month finished a flashy new terminal at the country's international airport. A Philippine utility is about to take over running the electricity company of Ghana. Even Ghana's biggest flyover, named after liberation hero Kwame Nkrumah, was built by Brazilians. A new group of outside powers from China to Brazil and from Russia to Turkey is gaining a commercial and strategic foothold across a vast continent that was until recently dominated by former European colonial powers and the US. States from the Gulf, the Middle East jockeying for influence in the Horn of Africa, Chinese companies locking up cobalt assets vital for electric cars in the DR Congo, or India replacing the US as the biggest importer of Nigerian crude. All over Africa, new participants are making their presence felt. That's a good thing. Carlos Lopez says he has yet to meet an African leader who is not animated by the new possibilities opening up in an era that might be termed post-colonial. It gives Africans much more room to maneuver, he says. The level of ambition from leaders has gone up very much in response to these incentives to do more with infrastructure and financing and to dare defy Western pressure. They are finding it very exciting. China supplanted the US as Africa's biggest trading partner in 2009. Last year, China-Africa trade was $170 billion off its 2014 peak, but still nearly 20 times higher than at the start of the millennium. By contrast, US trade with sub-Saharan Africa was just $39 billion. Africa-India trade jumped more than tenfold from $7.2 billion in 2001 to $78 billion in 2014, making India Africa's fourth biggest trading partner, according to the UN Economic Commission for Africa. Washington is watching this growing influence with alarm. Last year, China opened its first overseas military base in Djibouti, adding to the presence of the US and others. Djibouti is now heavily indebted to China. It's a prime example of what some US critics have labeled dead diplomacy. The US continues to be a player, but it's caught in the post-Iraq era. Its policies driven by securocrats as Kwasi Prempeh. Poor Mrs. May really has a lot of catching up to do, says Lord Mallet Brown, a British diplomat. We started hearing complaints about what China was doing in Africa, grumbling from the British and the Americans, but my God, they've created a competitive spur to the West. Talking about Europe, they're responding to a domestic constituency agitated about the influx of migrants. Yes, that's true to some degree. Turks decided years ago they wanted to do more business in Africa, that they opened embassies, opened up import facilities and started more flights. Turkish Airlines now operates routes to more than 40 African cities. UAE provided Ethiopia with a $3 billion in aid and investments, helping to avert a foreign currency crisis. A month later, Saudi Arabia promised Cyril Ramaphosa $10 billion of investment, mainly in the power sector. So we've got a very dynamic environment around us, but make no mistake, all these countries are heavily indebted, and in most cases, big trouble. And that's why the West is pushing back. They're seeing an opportunity to reposition back in global trade with sub-Saharan Africa. This is from David Pilling.